The WNBA Finals were supposed to be a celebration, the culmination of a season that had finally pushed women's basketball into the spotlight. The stage was set for intensity, emotion, and history. Two powerhouse teams, MVP-caliber players, legacy-defining matchups. But when Aja Wilson and DeWanna Bonner walked into an arena surrounded by empty red seats, it became clear that something was deeply wrong. The lights were bright, the cameras were ready, but the magic was gone. What should have been a showcase for the league's best talent felt like a reminder that something bigger was missing. The connection that had fueled the sport all year, the WNBA had spent months riding a high unlike anything in its history. Caitlin Clark's arrival had changed everything. Packed arenas, viral highlights, mainstream media attention. She wasn't just a rookie. She was a revolution. But now, as the finals tipped off without her, the atmosphere told a different story. The energy that once defined the league evaporated, leaving silence where thunderous cheers should have been. Fans weren't showing up. Tickets were selling for as low as $35, an unthinkable price for a championship event. It wasn't just disappointing, it was humiliating. Players like Wilson and Bonner had fought for years to earn respect, to build the league's visibility, to convince the world that women's basketball deserved the same love and passion as the men's game. But here they were, playing on the sport's biggest stage, surrounded by empty seats and echoes of what could have been. The visuals were brutal. Cameras panning across wide sections of vacant space, commentators trying to avoid mentioning the attendance, and frustrated players exchanging glances that said what no one wanted to admit. The league tried to spin it as business as usual. They pushed the narrative of competitiveness, of parity, of how the finals represented the best of women's basketball, but no one was buying it. Social media was merciless. Fans compared screenshots from the finals to Caitlin Clark's Fever games earlier in the season, where every seat was full, every cheer deafening, every play amplified by the kind of passion money can't buy. Without her, the finals didn't feel like an event. They felt like an afterthought. The frustration didn't just belong to the fans. Wilson and Bonner, both veterans and leaders in the league, couldn't hide their disappointment. For them, this wasn't just about attendance numbers, it was personal. They'd worked their entire careers to reach this moment, to earn the right to play for a championship that meant something. But when they looked into the stands and saw indifference staring back, it cut deep. It wasn't arrogance, and it was heartbreak. Years of dedication, sweat, and sacrifice all met with silence. And while the players fought to stay focused on the court, the conversation off it was spiraling out of control. Fans were arguing, media pundits were dissecting, and everyone seemed to reach the same uncomfortable conclusion. Without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA had lost its spark. The rookie who was supposed to represent the future of the league had also become the anchor holding it together. Without her, the air went out of the room. Online polls painted a grim picture. When fans were asked if they were watching the finals, 96% said no. The message couldn't have been clearer. The casual fans who had tuned in for the Fever, who had bought jerseys and filled arenas, weren't here for the league. They were here for the phenomenon. That truth hurt, but it was impossible to ignore. Game 2 brought no relief. The league slashed ticket prices, pushed new ads, and tried to reignite hype. But it was like trying to light a match in a storm. Attendance barely budged. Cameras captured Aja Wilson's visible frustration. The towel slam, the glare toward the crowd, the quiet muttering to herself that said everything words couldn't. DeWanna Bonner's reaction was no different. She looked defeated, shaking her head as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. It wasn't just a lack of fans, it was a lack of faith. Within hours, the clips went viral. Not for the basketball being played, but for the emotions on the sidelines. Fans mocked the empty seats and accused the league of ignoring the writing on the wall. Commenters pointed out the irony. The same veterans who'd spent the season criticizing the media frenzy around Caitlin Clark were now begging for the same attention. It wasn't just a meme, it was a reckoning. The league's leadership tried to control the damage. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert stepped into the spotlight to address the issue, but instead of empathy or accountability, her tone came off defensive. She blamed scheduling, marketing fatigue, and misinformation online. The problem was no one believed her. When a reporter asked if the finals' lack of energy had anything to do with the absence of Caitlin Clark, Engelbert's face tightened. Her answer, a dismissive deflection about how this isn't about one player, only made things worse. Within minutes, the clip went viral. Hashtags demanding her resignation began trending across social media. By the time Game 3 arrived, the finals had become less about basketball and more about damage control. The league's credibility was collapsing under its own pride. Executives scrambled behind the scenes to salvage the image of progress, while players tried to find motivation in an environment that felt lifeless. The disconnect between leadership and fans had become impossible to ignore. The players felt abandoned, the fans felt unheard, and the commissioner's words only deepened the divide. Inside locker rooms, the mood was heavy. Aja Wilson was reportedly emotional after learning that viewership had dropped nearly 50% since the semifinals, the same round that featured Caitlin Clark and the Fever. DeWanna Bonner was equally disillusioned, confiding to staff that the finals didn't feel like the dream she'd spent her career chasing. The league's greatest achievement had turned into its greatest embarrassment. In living rooms across the country, the few who tuned in could feel it. The lack of atmosphere, the absence of passion, it all radiated through the screen. Even broadcasters struggled to keep the energy alive, their voices echoing in half-empty arenas that looked more like preseason games than championship showdowns. And as the final buzzer sounded, the sound of celebration felt hollow. There were smiles, confetti, and forced cheers, but beneath it all was a quiet acknowledgement that something fundamental had been lost. The Caitlin Clark effect wasn't hype. It was real, measurable, and now painfully visible. With her, the WNBA had experienced record-breaking ratings, sold-out venues, and unprecedented cultural attention. Without her, the numbers crashed. Attendance plummeted. Social media engagement evaporated. The finals, once envisioned as the league's crowning moment, had become a mirror reflecting every mistake the WNBA had made in handling its newfound fame. For years, the league had dreamed of equality, recognition, and respect. But when the moment came, it couldn't manage it. Instead of uniting around the star who brought millions of new eyes to the sport, too many chose pride over progress. The veterans saw her as a threat, leadership treated her like a complication, and the league underestimated just how much her presence mattered. Now that miscalculation has become a crisis. Sponsors are nervous, fans are disillusioned, and the media has turned skeptical. What was supposed to be the WNBA's breakthrough moment has instead become a wake-up call, or perhaps a warning shot. The league's success cannot survive on slogans, social campaigns, or leadership spin. It thrives only when fans care, when players inspire, and when stars like Caitlin Clark are celebrated, not resented. If you believe the WNBA needs to change how it values its stars and its fans, share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think the league can recover from this? And if Caitlin Clark had been in the finals, would things have been different? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time as we uncover the stories shaping the future of basketball.